State leaders have passed a $142 billion budget that includes spending on schools, changes in teacher evaluations, and new ethics disclosure rules for lawmakers.
But some rank and file leaders say the document was put together behind closed doors and rushed through with little time for them or the public to review the details. We'll have more on that in a minute, but first we want to break down a couple of the key points of the plan, starting with ethics. The changes will require lawmakers to report sources of income over $1,000, and attorneys will have to identify clients who pay them $5,000 or more. Education
has really stolen the show of budget negotiations here. The legislation increased overall state aid to public schools by $1.4 billion to $23.5 billion. And an overhaul of teacher evaluations will mean firing those found ineffective 3 years in a row.
Now is Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, and I'm almost sorry to ask you this, but have you gone to sleep yet?
I'm working on about 3 hours of sleep.
3 hours of sleep. So it was a late night, obviously down to the wire to make sure this budget was passed on time. Interesting point, Assemblyman Brindisi, while this budget did pass, voted against the education portion of it. And I first want to have you explain why you decided to vote no.
Well, I think in terms of the governor's initial proposals, what was ultimately passed is far better than what he was proposing. But still, I felt that what was passed was going to increase the use of these high-stakes testing for students, because now teachers are being evaluated even more on these high-stakes tests. And the other thing that concerned me was if the local school districts did not adopt these new evaluation systems by November 15th, they could lose out on their state aid funding. And for schools here in our region, some of which are already underfunded, losing out on state aid funding could have devastating consequences.
Yet the governor just moments ago coming out saying that this budget is the most pro-teacher he has ever seen.
Yeah,
you don't agree?
I don't think teachers would agree with that. I think that we've seen locally an outpouring of opposition, not just from teachers, but from parents, from students, and members of the community who have said that they do not support what he had proposed in the budget. They feel that there's a real attack on public education, and I felt in the end, anything that had the potential to create more tests on students, more emphasis on these evaluations that are flawed, and anything that potentially could prevent schools from receiving their funding, I could not support.
So you have the governor, and then you have the largest teachers union. Obviously, they were butting heads on the majority of these reforms. Is it hard for you to side with one and not the other, especially since you're going against a governor of your own party?
Yeah, look, I have tremendous respect for the governor. He has done a lot for our area, even in terms of this budget. Some of the programs that are in the budget for Oneida County and the Mohawk Valley were really his doing, and I support him. But on this issue, I have to listen to my constituents, and with my background being on a school board, I see real potential chaos with these teacher evaluation systems.
Big news, and you were on the Utica City School District Board, so big news coming out yesterday that an increase of $4 million, which is tremendous for that one school district. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, but had you voting no for this education portion of it, if it was defeated, would that have meant Utica does not see that $4 million? Because that's a risk you were taking.
Absolutely. The funding for the schools was a separate budget bill, which I did support, and the money coming to Utica is going to help them keep teachers in the classroom. They already struggle with class sizes, but because of their high percentage of refugees, they were able to get that bigger bump in education aid.
So what do you tell the teachers now that we have this in place? And again, $20,000 in annual bonuses for the teachers rated highly affected, but termination for the teachers who are rated ineffective 2 or 3 years in a row. So what's your message to the teachers tonight, being that this is the plan that's in place?
Well, what the final budget says is that the Board of Regents has to adopt a new evaluation system, and we have to really keep the pressure on the Department of Education and the Board of Regents. They have until June 30th to adopt this new system. Then it has to go to the school districts to be approved. But really, the focus right now should be on the Board of Regents and expressing to them that we don't want to see more emphasis on these tests. We'd like to see a reduction in the amount of emphasis that's placed on these tests, so they can go forward and put together an evaluation system that's more fair for students and teachers.
Story's not over yet. Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi joining us live again on 3 hours of sleep, and we appreciate while you get home to your family. Thank you for joining us.